My name is Jennifer Jackson, and today I will be presenting my anti-oppressive curriculum design activity based on the lesson sequence I created to target homophobia, heterosexism, and the phrase "that's so gay" within our school system. In the hallways of many schools today, students are being tortured by words. For many years, acts of verbal bullying were described as kids just being kids. Recently, there has been an increase in the number of studies demonstrating that words are hurting our children deeper than we know, sometimes pushing them to the point of suicide to end the torture. In this regard, the old nursery rhyme, "Sitting sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me," is sadly misconstructed. Phrases such as "that's so gay" or "you're so gay" have become normative in schools and are some of the most common derogatory expressions used by students today. For lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth, or LGBT for short, such phrases and words have the power to shape their identities as well as their psychological and physical well-being. According to a report titled "From Teasing to Torment," the second most common reason cited for recurring instances of bullying and harassment is sexual orientation, and LGBT students are far more likely to report not feeling safe at school, feel that they have been harassed or assaulted in school despite the fact that they did not provoke the attacker, and feel the need to always be on guard to protect themselves against such bullying and violence. It is believed that such daily experiences often emanated from homophobia and heterosexism. In this study, 69% of participants were exposed to verbal aggression, including student expressions "that's so gay" or "you're so gay," and 1 in every 2 participants frequently heard their peers make homophobic remarks. In association, recent figures compiled by the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, GLSEN for short, found similar results. Some of the alarming highlights are listed on this slide. Such results clearly demonstrate that homophobia is present and persistent in schools, and working against homophobia and heterosexism is extremely important for student well-being and is an issue that must be addressed within the school curriculum and by school personnel. The phrase "that's so gay" is a form of heterosexist language, which is considered one of the many mechanisms through which heterosexist beliefs and values are enacted and creates anti-gay sentiment toward the LGBT community. Independent of the context for which it is used, "that's so gay" is an example of a sexual orientation microaggression that accompanies and supports heterosexism and heteronormative values and may contribute to creating and maintaining a social environment that LGBT students perceive as unwelcoming and exclusionary. In association, Woodford et al. Completed a study with which they examined the health and well-being correlates of hearing the popular phrase "that's so gay" among LGBT emerging adults, and found that participants' psychological, social, and physical well-being was negatively associated with hearing this phrase. In summary, the goal of this lesson sequence is to raise awareness and encourage prevention of the use of homophobic language in an effort to create a more positive environment for LGBT teens. Here is a brief overview of the lesson sequence I created to target some of the issues highlighted above. Please note that some of these lessons were inspired by the Think Before You Speak campaign as created by the GLSEN. I will go into a deeper discussion of each lesson shortly. The goals of the lesson sequence are as follows. Students will reflect upon their experiences with homophobia and heterosexism. Students will explore the cause and effects of homophobia and heterosexism. Students will investigate the reasoning behind the current use of the phrase "that's so gay" and the potential impact it has on peers and those in the community. And students will brainstorm ideas and gain confidence around reducing the use of the phrase "that's so gay." We will now go into a more in-depth look at the actual lessons themselves. Before diving into the lessons, it is important to note that students should not be forced to participate in any of these discussions or put in a position where they draw unwanted attention to themselves by refusing to share when asked. There are many reasons why young people may be reluctant to discuss their views on these topics, all of which must be respected. To alleviate some of the potential stress or reluctancy, the first thing a teacher will want to do is try and create ground rules which will aid in the creation of a safe space, whereby students will hopefully feel safe enough to share opinions and personal experiences without the fear of being ridiculed or put down. Taking this into consideration, the purpose of this lesson is to provide ground rules, which are created by the students themselves, for use in lessons related to LGBT issues and homophobia. These ground rules will provide a basis for respectful, safe, and supported discussion of potentially new or difficult topics. For this exercise, the teacher will introduce the general topics that will be covered in the upcoming set of lessons, including homophobia, heterosexism, and negative language use. The teacher will explain that, since we want all students to participate and feel respected, we need to create a safe space for all by developing a set of ground rules. This is also done in preparation for future lessons, where potentially new and challenging topics will be raised. The next step is to have students create ground rules collaboratively that will govern how they would like themselves and others to interact and behave when the class is discussing potentially sensitive issues. The teacher will write these ground rules on chart paper and post them at the front of the class for reference. The teacher may want to start by suggesting an important rule and give students rules and have them explain what they think the rules mean. The ground rule discussion with the class should cover the following areas: thinking about the words you use, being sensitive to peers in the class that may be homosexual or know someone that is LGBT, thinking about peers' feelings, attitudes, and past experiences, and thinking about how everyone can take part and contribute in a respectful manner. For example, allowing others time to speak, respecting various opinions, and not putting others down. In this activity, students will choose one of four corners or the center square that represents their response to the statements regarding their attitudes or experiences with the phrase "that's so gay" and related homophobic or heterosexist slurs. Prior to the activity, the teacher will want to post signs in the four corners of the room labeled "strongly agree," "agree," "disagree," or "strongly disagree." The teacher will also post a sign in the middle labeled "no response." Tell students that you're going to read a series of statements, one by one, that relate to commonly used expressions within the school. Next, the teacher will explain to students that after he or she reads a statement, you want them to stand in the corner that reflects their opinion or experience. Tell students that they are to be silent when choosing a place to stand. The teacher will then read the first statement aloud and allow students to find their place in the room. Once they have positioned themselves, ask them to silently look around and observe how their peers responded to this statement. Then have them discuss why they are standing where they are standing. What experiences have they gone through? What are they feeling? Etc. Remind students to always be respectful and follow the rules and guidelines created as a class. Repeat this process with the rest of the statements. The students will then return to their seat and have a group discussion, incorporating the related discussion questions. Here are some examples of statements that can be used. Please note that many of these statements were inspired by the Think Before You Speak campaign. As you can see, you will want to help students see the prevalence of the use of phrases such as "that's so gay," its potential impact on others, and the need to reduce and hopefully eliminate its use. Here are some examples of possible group discussion questions that could also be addressed. As you can see, many of these activities are aimed at increasing student awareness about the damaging effects of expressions like "that's so gay" and other terms that are intentionally or unintentionally derogatory. While it is important to note that you want to discourage the negative use of these phrases and words, it is also important to reinforce that these are not bad words in and of themselves and are perfectly acceptable when used in appropriate contexts. The teacher will want to divide students into groups of 3 to 5, depending on class size. In groups, students will write a short definition of the following words: lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, homophobia, and heterosexism. As a class, you will want to discuss the group definitions. The teacher will then reinforce the actual meaning of words, present these definitions on chart paper, and leave at the front of the class for reference. Although we will not go over each and every word here now, please feel free to pause this presentation and review the actual definitions that you will want your students to understand. While students may have an overall idea of what the words mean, it is good to go over each and every one and reiterate the true meaning instead of its derogatory use. This exercise uses reflective writing and group discussion to discuss the meaning and potential impact of the phrase "that's so gay." The aim of this lesson is to bring awareness of the potential harm caused by words and reinforce that the usual responses to the use of "that's so gay" does not excuse or support its use. Here's a dictionary print ad that students will be given and asked to discuss. It was used because the message is clear yet informative. Please note that this exercise ad was taken from the Think Before You Speak campaign. You will want to explain to students that words have a lot of power. Have them think about some of the words that have been said to them and how those hurtful words affected them and made them feel. Next, you will want to show students the dictionary print ad and have them write a short reflection on the following questions. What is the main message of this print ad? And how does this ad relate to what we have learned about heterosexism and homophobia? As a group, you will want to talk about the related lesson discussion questions. Here are a few examples of possible discussion points in relation to the dictionary print ad shown previously. As illustrated, you want students to be discussing the current use of the phrase "that's so gay," alternative words that could be used instead of the word gay, the potential harm that such a phrase can have on peers, and possible future directions that students can take to avoid using the phrase altogether. In this activity, students will reflect on situations in which they have been a bystander to harassment or bullying and explore what it takes to move from a passive bystander to a more active ally role. You will ask participants if they have ever overheard someone making fun of a peer or putting them down. Have them reflect silently to themselves surrounding how it made them feel and whether anyone stepped in to be an ally. Provide about 5 to 10 minutes for a reflection. The teacher will then want to post a sheet of paper at the front of the room and divide it into 2 columns, leaving a space at the top to fill in the column headings later. Ask participants why they think there is often a discrepancy between what people know is the right thing to do and how they actually respond. Ask what stops people from doing the right thing in situations like these, and chart their responses in the first column. Responses may be fear, ignorance, peer pressure, prejudice, for example. You will then ask participants what the term is for someone who witnesses an incident but doesn't get involved. Write bystander at the top of the first column of the chart. Then ask what the term is for somebody who speaks out or takes actions that are supportive of someone else. Write ally at the top of the second column. Tell students that you would like them to consider ways that they can act as an ally when offensive language is used around them, and record these suggestions under the ally section. Reinforce to participants that even if they are not personally to blame for the disrespectful language and behavior around them, they may be part of the problem if they ignore it, laugh at it, or do nothing in response. As a final class project, students will develop a handbook of rules and guidelines for their school, with the goal of preventing the use of offensive language, name-calling, and heterosexist bullying in order to create a more safer school environment. Allow students to be creative by incorporating stories, illustrations, comics, etc. to communicate why "that's so gay" and related slurs is inappropriate and how it, as well as other types of name-calling, can hurt others. Explain that as a class, students will be creating a handbook that incorporates any of the aspects discussed related to heterosexism, homophobia, and the prevention of name-calling and phrases such as "that's so gay," which will hopefully aid in the creation of a safer school environment for all students. Explain that each student will be creating an anti-homophobia poster that will be both posted around the school as well as bonded into a handbook and kept in the classroom. The teacher should collect all posters after they are finished, ensure that they are appropriate and respectful, and bind the work to create a handbook that can be kept in the class. Posters can also be posted around the school, as long as it is approved by school personnel. And that concludes my presentation today. Thank you for taking the time to follow along, and hopefully I have given you some potential ideas surrounding how to combat homophobia, heterosexism, and the phrase "that's so gay" within our school system. And remember, words can hurt or words can heal. Think before you speak.